Hey everybody, so we're going to be continuing factoring polynomials, but this time we're going to be changing things up. We have it in standard form, but we're going to make it that a is greater than 1. You guys have been doing great with just a equals 1, but now is when we start having the real fun. There are two ways of doing it. They're both essentially the same. It's just which one's easier for you to remember. The first one is swing and divide. And the second one is my fat dog really moves. And yes, that's a really fat dog moving, but it's really cute too. So we're going to go over both of these methods, but no matter which method you use, you need to remember that you always need to look for a GCF first. This is so important. So if you need to go back and figure out what GCF stands for and get a review over that, then go and go back a few videos in this playlist and that'll help you out. Let's go over swing and divide first. These are our first, there are only 4 steps to it. Again, you always look for a GCF first, regardless of these 4 steps, and that will make swinging and dividing easier, and sometimes you won't even need to do that like we practiced when a was equal to 1. Here's our first example, 2x squared plus 7x plus 5. If we're always looking for that GCF, you'll notice that 2, 7, and 5 do not have a GCF. So we're going to go ahead and keep going with our first step, which is we're going to swing our a into the c. And how we're going to do that is we're going to multiply. So 2 times 5 gets you 10. And now you have a new polynomial, which gets you x squared plus 7x plus 10. And guess what? You know how to do these. So we're going to continue like we normally do. We're going to factor the polynomial as if our a was equal to 1. I'm going to draw my x, puzzle, diamond, whatever you would like to call it. 10 goes on top. 7 goes on bottom. I think about the factors, or if I need to, I list out all of the factors for 10. And that will end up adding up to be positive 7. I've got 2 and 5. And those gives me the factors of x plus 2 and x plus 5. Now you got to remember, this is not called a swing method. This is a swing and divide method. And we had multiplied by a 2 right here. We had multiplied that 2 into that 5. So now we're going to go ahead and divide each factor by the a, or our 2 in this case. You've got 2 over 2, you've got 5 over 2. And you know what? In this case, we do not like fractions. When we are doing factors, we want integers there instead of what we have here. So we are going to go ahead and simplify any fractions. So our 2 over 2 is the only one that ends up simplifying, which simplifies to 1. And I've left it here just so you can kind of see where we're coming from. And then 5 over 2 doesn't simplify, so you're just going to swing that denominator back because you wouldn't want to get stuck in a tree. Right here, this girl is swinging. She goes back and forth, back and forth. And then we go ahead and rewrite our 2 binomials, and that would be our final answer. Again, this is one of the methods. We're going to do 2 more problems with this method. Now let's check it. We've got example 2, 9r squared plus 15r plus 6. And I always want you to look for a GCF first. You'll notice in this one, we actually do have a GCF, and that GCF is 3. So we're going to take the 3 out and go ahead and write down the rest of our polynomial with our GCF factored out. And we're going to continue with swing and divide with only the polynomial inside these parentheses. First step, swinging my a into the c by multiplying. 3 times 2 will get us a 6 for our c, and we've got r squared plus 5r plus 6. I know we've got our GCF there. We're just going to let the GCF wait for us, just like we did in all of our other problems. So just let it chill, wait for a second. Second step, we're going to factor the polynomial as if our a is equal to 1, just like it is here. Set up my x, 6 on top, 5 on bottom. Think about my factors, and I've got 2 times 3. And write down my factors with r plus 2, because this is a positive 2, and r plus 3 with a positive 3. If you're fuzzy on how to do this, or you didn't do so hot on that quiz, go back to the video before this to kind of refresh your memory on it. Now, again, this method is called swing and divide, so we're going to go ahead and divide by our a, which was a 3. We'd multiplied by a 3, so it becomes 2 over 3 and 3 over 3. Again, nasty fractions, so we're going to simplify anything that we can, and this one right here, 3 over 3, will end up simplifying to 1. And then we're going to go ahead and swing our denominator back because we don't want to leave it as a fraction. That gives us 3r plus 2 times r plus 1. But wait, you remember that GCF? We're going to bring it all the way down and drop it in right in front. And now we've got our final answer of 3 times 3r plus 2 times r plus 1. And if we really wanted to, we would double check it by boxing these two binomials and then distributing that 3 to our trinomial. And we would end up getting our final answer, or our original problem in this case. Here's our last one. We're going to go ahead and skip example 3. I want you to do that on your own paper, on your own. And you can go ahead and check that with me when you're ready. Let's go ahead and move on to example 4. We've got 8b squared minus 5b minus 10. First things first, you always look for a GCF. 8, negative 8, 5, and 10, or negative 5 and negative 10 don't really have a common factor. So we're going to go ahead and keep going with swing and divide. We're going to swing our a into our c by multiplying, and it gets us b squared minus 5b minus 80. I know it's a big number, but we can do this. So we're going to go do our second step, which is factoring our polynomial as if our a is equal to 1, which in this case it is now. I'm going to draw our x, negative 80 on the top and negative 5 on the bottom. And off the top of my head, I don't know all the factors of 80, so I went ahead and listed mine out. I've got 1 and 80, and neither of those, when they turn negative, would get me a negative 5, so I'm going to keep going. 2 and 40, same thing. 40 and 2 do not get me 5. 4 and 20, not when I'm adding or subtracting them. Negative 4 plus 20 or 4 minus 20 doesn't get me that. 5 and 16, it would either get me a 21 or an 11, so that wouldn't work out for us. And then 8 and 10, well, we could get a 2, a negative 2, or an 18 or a negative 18, but none of these work. And we've never really encountered something like this before. So this is where a new vocab word comes into play, and that's that it's prime, which means it's a polynomial that cannot be written as a product of two polynomials with integer coefficients. You want to recall that integers are numbers like 1, 40, 4, 20, 5, negative 80, 0, but it's not 1.2 or 3.3. So in this case, we would write down that it's prime, and we would box our answer. That's it. So these are the 3 examples that we're going over for swing and divide. I want you to do example 3 for swing and divide, and then have it checked by me. Once you're ready, you're going to go ahead and move on to My Fat Dog Really Moves. And if you know me, then you know that we're going to have all the gifs of the fat doggies, and we've got all the fat, cute little puppies because Miss Samji has a problem. So what My Fat Dog Really Moves means is multiply, factor, divide, reduce, and move. So these are the 5 steps that we use, just like we used to do with Don't Call Me After Midnight, where it was distribute, combine like terms, move your lighter variable, add or subtract, and multiply or divide. We've got My Fat Dog Really Moves. So that way you remember your fat doggy is going to really move right here. And sometimes a corgi can't get over. So we're going to do example 1. You'll notice that all 4 of the examples are exactly the same. I'm only going to go through example 1 with you, and then I want you to do the remaining 2, kind of 3, on your own with My Fat Dog Really Moves, and then go ahead and show me and I'll go ahead and check your work. Once you're done, you'll be able to move on to your assignment. So let's go ahead and get started. Our first step is always going to be look for your GCF. And in this case, you'll recall we did not have GCF, so we're going to go ahead and go through with our first 5 steps. Our first step is going to be to multiply. So I go ahead and set up my X because this one works a little bit differently. The order is a little bit different than what we do with swing and divide. I'm going to multiply my A times my C, which gets me 2 times 5, and that's a 10. Our B still goes on the bottom. Our next step is to factor. When we go ahead and set up our factors, we get 2 and 5 that will end up making this puzzle work. I'm going to set it up as x plus 2 times x plus 5. Next up is divide, and that's because we ended up multiplying it by our A right here. Typically, we're used to just putting our C. We actually multiplied it by A, so we're going to divide it by that A as well, which was 2. So 2 divided by 2, 5 divided by 2, and it's each of those integers that get divided. Then you're going to reduce. 2 over 2 will reduce into 1, but 5 over 2, will not reduce. And that way you guys can see this a little bit clearly. This one ends up reducing, but 5 over 2 does not reduce. So we're going to keep it like this. And then your final step is going to be to move it on over. There we go. And we get 2x plus 5 right here. And x plus 1 stays the same because there was nothing to move. And this is our final answer, which you already knew from swing and divide. Again, go ahead and go through examples 2 through 4 on My Fat Dog, and we'll go ahead and make sure it really moves, and then move on over and come check with me, and we'll go ahead and do the rest of the problems, and you'll get your next assignment. Thanks for watching.